Well, welcome everyone, and appreciate everybody showing up tonight. It's an honor to sit here next to old Roy Boy and tell a few stories. But I've been asked to kind of start out and just give a little bit of a history on the Fortuna Rodeo and how it started and what's kind of transpired. The Fortuna Rodeo started in 1921 by the Humboldt Cattlemen's Association. And it started out as a picnic, and soon thereafter it turned into a 3-day event, and a lot of bronc riding. They had barbecued chicken feeds, they had beef feeds, they had all kinds of stuff going on. But if you've seen some of the old pictures of the rodeo grounds, they're changed quite a bit from what they used to be. There used to be a full track that went around the arena, and there used to be some pretty good horse races around that track, and there happens to be one of the, I guess you could call him a jockey sitting here tonight, Mr. Jim Hunt. Sounds like he was a proverbial second place behind one of the Boogenigs, but the Fortuna Rodeo is really what Fortuna is about. It's a community event. It's a week-long event that brings more than just the Eel River Valley together. It brings the people from all over Humboldt County. And my family's been involved in it from the get-go, and there's been a McWhorter on the board of directors for most of the 91 years. Yeah. And I'm certainly proud to represent this community and my family on the board. And this year is the 91st, and we're looking forward to another great year. So, Eddie, you got anything to add to that? Or?
No, you can't. You did a good job. But I'll stick around so when Roy lies, I can swear to it.
Yeah.
Well, the problem of it is Bob Somerville's sitting out there, and I can't tell any lies to him. Brad McDaniel over here, and he knows everything that went on behind the chutes and everything. But before the 1921 rodeo, there was one here in 1911, and it was called the Rough Riders. And they came in, there was no corrals, there was nothing. They just had an open field out here. And as my dad told it, they had their buggies and wagons and things and kind of made a corral-like, and they bucked those horses out in that area. And from there, I don't know the following years just how many rodeos came along, but then in 21, the cattlemen did take over, and that's when the Fortuna Rodeo really became Fortuna Rodeo. They went on for until 1929, and Shannon mentioned the McWhorters, H.W. McWhorter, the grandfather, his 3 sons, his grandsons, and a great-grandson is on the board, so they are well represented. Going back to that 1929 rodeo, you probably read this right and you booked it there, but they brought in 3 carloads of horses and 60 head of wild cattle. In that bunch of horses was a horse named Ham Ramsey. He was a real outlaw, and this, I mean, he wanted to kill you if you tried to catch him. Well, no one wanted to ride him, but there was a cowboy, and his name was George Patoot. And George, and he had 2 other fellows. There were 2 black cowboys. One was Jess Stahl, the other was Ty Stokes. And they roped him, they snubbed him up, and George got on that outlaw and rode him. So from then on, Mr. Norton Tooby took him out to the Redwood House and turned him out with the understanding that no one was to mess with that horse again because he didn't want anyone to get killed. And that's just a little added. But anyway, you want me to continue?
Yeah, you're doing just fine.
Right.
Yeah.
What we're here
for. Moving on up, like Jim was, you were saying, Jim rode, that's when they had the track, was still in. And I think they may have taken the track out of 1954, and they put the baseball field in. But when I played baseball here in 1953, back up in 51, they had the backstop against the, right up against the grandstand there, and that's where we played baseball. But anyway, in 1941, it was the first year that I remember being around the rodeo and really paying attention to what it was like. The hillside where Travis lives now was all open. People would just come up there and sit down on the grass, and that was Tightwad Hill. And and up behind the rodeo grounds.
And now we got the tightwads on the trailers in the parking lot.
Well, there's always going to be those that try and get away with not paying, but that's all right if that's what they want. But in those days, when they brought their wagons and teams and everything, they had to have a place for them to stay. And behind where the pistol range is now, there and behind the pavilion, that was all stalls. They brought their horses in, and they had a place to put them right there in the stalls. And of course, they tore them out later when they started driving automobiles instead of horse and wagons.
Yeah.
But then there in 41, why I definitely remember that rodeo, because that was the first year I saw a Brahma bull. And it was a white bull, and the bull's name was Silver Dollar. And that Silver Dollar, they put on a show, the guy rode him around and everything, and the last portion of his act, he had a big white Cadillac, and he had that bull run and jump over the Cadillac. And that was real impressive to me. The other thing I remember about 41, there was a cowboy. By the way, Fred Berry won the saddle that year, but there was a cowboy that was there. His name was Felix Cooper, and probably, I'm sure you remember Felix Cooper. Well, Felix rode a horse out of the Christian Brothers string. It was called Steamboat, and that was probably one of the best rides I ever saw on a bucking horse. He really put a ride on. Then of course, in 39, they built the grandstand, WPA project. All the projects around Fortuna was WPA. And that's when they built the new grandstand. There was an older grandstand, but they tore it down and built a new one. Then
They built the hall too, the fireman's hall, WPA? Or?
I think it was about the same time, Shannon, but I'm not for sure. I know that one time the office here was over by the barbecue pits, across the road from the barbecue pits, and we moved that over here. And from there, in 1946, that was a year that we just darn near didn't have a rodeo. The cowboys were getting paid more money to go somewhere else, and they went to Cottage Grove and flew in a bunch of cowboys so they have enough to fill out the bucking horses and all. And that was a year that the Christian Brothers were still the contractors, but the rodeo was kind of dying off then. So in 1950, they went from the PRCA, Professional Cowboys Rodeo Association, to in the 1950s. That's when the rodeo board was formed. Herb Sapper drew up the papers and formed our corporation. And then from then on, it was half firemen and half Chamber of Commerce, and that's the way it is still today.
And tell them how the money's spent.
Well, the money is spent here in the park. Everything we make off the rodeo goes back into the park. Just about everything you see here in the park, including this building, we help pay for. We didn't pay it all, but we helped pay with playground equipment, the cook shack, the restrooms across from the cook shack. they were in horrible condition, and Tom and Gene Terry went in there and leveled it and built a new bathroom. Now, they said it was going to cost about $65,000. Well, knowing Uncle Tom, they put it in for $35,000. But anyway, I went on the board in 1958, and in those days, the grandstand went up a lot higher than it is today. And probably about in the early 60s, the top tiers of the grandstand was pretty sunken. And so we figured we better do something about it. So we went in there and tore out the top, I think the top 15 rows and where it is today. And then we started repair work on the grandstand. And we decided, well, the stringers were fine, but the decking was really getting pretty rotten. So we went in, and in 3-year time, we started at the north end and rebuilt the grandstands, and it took us 3 years to do that. So there was a lot of money went right back into the grandstand in those days. But that pretty much is, we've had all kinds of acts and things here on the track. We've had Battle of the Bands. You might be surprised, but we had a fellow by the name of Kenny Chesney came here and put on a show. Cost us $5,000, and you couldn't get him for $105 now probably.